Well, I've spent a lot of time in smoke-filled theaters and smoke-filled bars and pot parties where you could cut the fucking smoke with a knife, but now you can't even go outside. This is fucking ridiculous. So, we'll get a lengthy episode today. Why not? Because I watched the Dark Side of the Ring Junkyard Dog edition. Pretty sad that a guy, went down that road, but one thing they did bring up is how he basically screwed Bill Watts by just leaving. What they didn't say was that probably he had no choice but to screw Bill Watts. The same way Hulk Hogan screwed Vern Gagne, the same way Roddy Piper screwed Championship Wrestling from Georgia. McMahon basically told them, you come when I call you or the deal isn't there. So with Hogan, he left Vern Gagne in a lurch. JYD left Bill Watts in a lurch. And they covered the whole Roddy Piper thing in Georgia by having Buzz Sawyer and Ivan Koloff show up on camera saying that they jumped Piper out in the parking lot and beat the shit out of him. Pretty much McMahon's whole thing was basically to undercut these other companies and make them stumble by taking their top stars. Because usually the courtesy is, you would give 2 weeks notice and then they would phase you out, with an injury or something like that. But we all know what a great businessman Vince McMahon is, a complete fucking scumbag. So that's that. I don't know what the next episode is. I know I think they got one with Marty Jannetty and one with Abdullah the Butcher. So we'll see. But anyway, somebody brought something up in an email to me about a certain movie that pretty much I forgot about for a lot of reasons. Something called The Last House on a Dead End Street. And this was shot by a guy who basically did a lot of New York porn. Not a lot, because I think he only did like maybe 10 films total. Roger Watkins was his name. I guess at 22 years old, he invested $1,500 into make this terrible fucking movie shot on 16 millimeter, and they said most of the budget was went to amphetamines and things like that because obviously Roger was a meth head. It amazes me how much respect these fucking junkie filmmakers get, even though they only made a couple things and basically most of them didn't live to make 60 years old. Somebody was asking me if I had seen this thing, and I said, no, I didn't see it in the theater. Where I saw it was, there was a bunch of notoriety surrounding it. They said, this thing was popular by word of mouth, but it was out in 77 or 79 or something. And honestly, I never saw an ad for it. I never saw it on a marquee. I never saw it brought back. So I don't know what the deal was. From what I understand, the director himself, Watkins, didn't even know it was playing anywhere. Supposedly one of the actresses sued him because he used hardcore footage of her or something. I don't know. This whole thing just seems to be like a drug-soaked mess. But for whatever reason, these drug-soaked messes are embraced by certain fans. I don't know whether they're just nihilistic or whatever. It was called one of the most nihilistic movies ever made. And probably, I'm guessing, the reason it wasn't a frequent replay because it sort of had the same effect as Cannibal Holocaust did. It sort of flatlined the audience, and not in a fun way. Whereas Make Them Die Slowly was a perennial favorite because the film was too over the top to be taken seriously. The other two were grim. So, like I said, this whole thing basically was an hour and some, I don't know, like an hour, a little over an hour long. And it was basically just someone's idea of making a snuff film to get, back at society or whatever. This main character, Terry, also played by Watkins, was this brooding guy, and there's basically a scene with a power drill, somebody getting dismembered and somebody either getting screwed by a hoof or something, or a hoof shoved down somebody's pants and somebody's sucking on it or something. I mean, yeah, it really makes you want to just jump right out and see it. And the weird thing was, like I say, some people that I know actually embrace this shit, that it's like creative and, this guy's a tormented genius. No, he isn't. He's a fucking junkie. I don't get it. The lowest thing in my universe is a fucking junkie because number one, you can't trust them. They lie and they steal. And, I was, in the 70s, I was, basically in this town, Lyndhurst, New Jersey, close to New York, which was a very huge drug town. And when you see these idiots bringing in a car stereo to sell you that still has the straps dangling off it from where they ripped it out of somebody's dash, or a better example was this guy came in carrying a TV set to the gas station I worked at, where this other guy was there named Steve, who I brought up was also in that movie Family Enforcer, the hitman who actually got hit. Well, he was friends with a guy named Tommy, a local connected guy. And this guy brings in this TV set, and Steve recognizes it as Tommy's. So he goes, can you get anything else? And he goes, yeah, I can go back and get your stereo if you want. So this idiot ambles off, and Steve calls Tommy, and they basically catch the guy in the act of breaking into his apartment again and stealing the stereo. Well, he staggered back by the gas station with his arms bent here. Because, bent here, like above the wrist, because basically they broke his wrists. They shoved a fire extinguisher hose down his throat and pulled the trigger. And they heated up a butter knife on the stove and stuck it in his ear. And they were sort of toying with throwing him off the roof, but it didn't happen. And then I ran into Tom a couple days later, and I said, yeah, I saw what happened. He goes, yeah, I saw Death Wish 4 times, and he walked away. So that was the way that shit was handled when you had to deal with fucking scumbag junkies back then. And as a guy who basically had 3 vehicles robbed in the space of 10 years, I have a complete disdain for these people. Nobody holds you down and forces a needle in your arm. That's a choice you make, and people make bad choices. But those bad choices should not affect the rest of us, and they did because of the way these people are. And like I said, I'm no fucking angel myself. I fucked up. I did coke and fucked myself up totally, and that's another reason why I don't do anything. Stick to weed and fucking booze, and booze never did me real no favors either sometimes, but at least I'm coherent and know what I'm fucking thinking. So again, I don't understand, what the attraction is with some of these people that are complete fuck-ups and get totally involved in drugs, yet they're completely admired by certain people in the horror business. I wasn't at the Wasteland where Roger Watkins was obviously a guest. I've only heard the stories about how, he treated the fans to a whole bag of drugs by dumping a pile of pills on the fucking table. And that he might have sold the rights to Last House to an indie filmmaker, a magazine publisher, a musician, and a fan. I don't know if that's true or not, but I decided to just see if this thing was still around DVD-wise. And yeah, it's on eBay from anywhere from $14 to $50, depending on who you're buying it off of. So, if this film was that influential and that important, I would have thought that somebody would have Blu-rayed it by now, but obviously they didn't. It just has this, released by Barrel Video, which has some extras as an interview with, I think, Watkins might have been on Joe Franklin or something for some reason. I don't know. All I know is that all the hoopla surrounding this film, I've never seen it anywhere. And, they said it was, spread by word of mouth on 42nd Street. Well, nobody said anything to the crew I ran with. Of course, we got Ilsa secondhand, word of mouth, and other films word of mouth. But honestly, I cannot remember anybody putting this film over at all. And like I said, I saw it. It's a fucking shitty film. If you want something bottom of the barrel dreck, that's what you're looking for. It's amateurishly shot, badly lit, and it just, goes on this whole pseudo snuff premise that, makes me not really give a shit. Because don't forget, that was tried already with that film Snuff, which was a complete ripoff, and everybody knows that. Why, like I say, I don't know why fans embrace this shit, or certain fans embrace this shit. Other fans poo-poo it off. I mean, horror, to me a horror film is supposed to scare you, not nauseate you, but maybe I'm in the minority because, the selling point of Terrifier 2, which I'm not going to even bother seeing, is that the special effects are so grotesque they'll make you throw up. Well, don't care. I don't see movies to lose my fucking cookies over. It's that fucking strange. But anyway, like I said, I don't know what the real fascination is behind a lot of this shit. Like I said, this guy, Watkins, under the name Richard Mailer, directed a handful of New York City lens porn films, which are supposed to be dark and disturbing. But again, the guy's a self-admitted, doper, so that sort of fucks with your mind. I just, like I said, I won't understand, the devotion that, some of these fans give these guys that are complete fucking losers in my estimation, that, got themselves involved with all kinds of drugs and just, lied their way and cheated their way through life. It's fucked up. But like I said, I'm no fucking angel either, but I never was dumb enough to stick a needle in my arm or never had the urge to do that. As a matter of fact, I'm so down on the whole thing, I could walk into my kitchen now and pull you 2 bottles of Oxycontin off the shelf that basically are one's really old and one's from my last hernia surgery, and I think there might be 1 pill missing out of each bottle because I'm not going to go that route. I can tolerate pain. I don't need to fucking fuck myself up or give myself a fucking problem by loading up on shit just because I'm hurt. And that's another thing I understand. I guess some people have a real fucking low tolerance to pain to get themselves wrapped up into this shit. And of course you can blame, the medical profession, the pharmacies, whatever, because they endorse it too. But like I say, I don't know anybody who, basically had somebody stick a fucking needle in their arm and get them addicted and shit like that. It's all a matter of choice, and choices are bad. And, I can go back, I can tell you a shitload of junkie stories. Guys that walked into the bar and, basically told you that their wife was laid out in the back of their car, and if you wanted a shot at her, give me $10, that type of shit. Or guys that got their sisters or their girlfriends addicted to this shit so they could get, whatever. It's just a fucked up situation, something I never wanted to be a part of, but unfortunately it crept into my life, through stolen vehicles, B&Es, the fact that my father's place was robbed so many fucking times by junkies that they refused to insure him anymore. So, yeah, you could say I'm pretty much down on that kind of drug use and anybody who's connected with it. So, that I say, but anyway, that's our show for today. I'm sure that's going to stir a little fucking controversy, but what the hell. And we're coming up on 4th of July weekend. So, realize something, that a lot of people have PSTD and a lot of fucking animals really hate fucking explosions and shit like that. So, luckily in my town there's an ordinance on fireworks against blowing the shit up because our stupid governor made it legal. And of course some of these inbred knuckle draggers will just be blowing shit up from Friday up until next fucking Saturday. So, whatever floats your boat, but I gotta sedate my dogs in the meantime. So, that's our show for today. Have a great weekend, and we'll have more goodies for you next week. So, until then, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.